Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hey, welcome back. It is your friend Cesar Espino, You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. And today I have a special guest. His name is Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Hey, Doctor, how are you?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely, dude. This is exactly where I want to be right now.
All right. Awesome. Before we get started, let me give the listeners and viewers a little bit of your background so they can get to know you, and then we can dive into the interview. So Dr. Benjamin Hardy is an organizational psychologist, successful entrepreneur, and best-selling author of Willpower Doesn't Work, with Personality Isn't Permanent being released June 2020. His blog is read by millions of people monthly and featured on Forbes, Fortune, CNBC, Cheddar, Big Thing, and many other ads, and many others, and adds priceless values to audiences by helping them to break free from the shackles of what they perceive as permanent personality. He is a regular contributor to Inc. and Psychology Today and one of the most popular writers of Medium. He speaks and trains at a wide range of events. He is also training for his first Ironman. He and his wife, Lauren, adopted 3 children through the foster system in February 2018, and 1 month later, Lauren became pregnant with twins who were born in December of 2018. That's awesome. So you're training for the Ironman, huh? When is that taking place?
Not sure. With COVID-19, everything's been turned off, but I think I'll do it next summer.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, good. So
this year, my Ironman is podcasts and launching books, but next year I've been doing running and loving it, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. One thing that I want to know is obviously you have a good thing going on for yourself, and I want to take it back, you know, where you are from. What were you born? What was your childhood? And kind of understand that and put things into perspective. So can you tell me more about that?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and grew up just in a great kind of middle-class family. My parents got divorced when I was age 11. The divorce kind of threw my father for a loop. He ended up becoming an extreme drug addict, all sorts of drugs, basically all through my junior high and high school years. That really kind of confused me, messed me up a little bit, not messed my younger brother up even worse. I kind of suppressed the pain. My brother just absorbed it, and it threw him down his own mess. He's still struggling with addictions and things like that, even to this day.
Wow. Yeah.
But, I don't know how I did it, but I basically barely graduated high school. And then about a year and a half after high school, I decided to leave Utah and go on a church mission. I was doing nothing with my life, not going to school, just playing World of Warcraft all day and just doing nothing, and was very non-happy, I guess you could say. I don't know if you've ever read the book Man's Search for Meaning.
No, not yet.
You got to do it, dude. You've heard of it, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Frankl. Yeah. I mean, he talks about how your life is meaningless if you don't have a purpose to live, and your purpose is always in the future. You have to have a future to have a good present. So I didn't have that for a long time. So I ultimately left on a mission to kind of find meaning and purpose in my life, and also to just get out and to start fresh. And that's the experience that totally changed my life. I went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for a few years, and did a lot of community service, read a lot of books, did a lot of journaling, and kind of really changed my life. And that's what set me on the path to psychology and moving forward.
Got you. What was the turning point that you decided to say, you know what, enough is enough. I need to make a change to be able to go into that path. A lot of times I feel like people don't see that pivotal moment, or they don't see a sign, and therefore they continue to be in whatever path they're in without changing, course in their direction. Was there anything specific for you that you saw as a turning point where you had to make that change, and you said, I have to make this change because it is what I need?
I think that I think a lot of times people don't have a turning point because they don't feel like they don't have a direction or a destination. Once you actually have like an escape or a destination, once you have something you can go do, I think the turning point becomes available. For me, the like option you could say
Hmm.
was going on a mission. And so like for me it was just a decision, am I going to go or am I not going to go? Like to me that was
Got
the
it.
way out. Other
Gotcha.
people maybe join the military, other people might be like get this
Yep.
job.
Yep.
And so I think you need something. And so the turning point won't happen until you find the next thing to do. It becomes impossible to have motivation if you don't know the next step. And so for me, the next step was just go on a mission. And it was kind of just a decision, do I go or do I not? And I began to just look at my own future and just realize if I don't go, I don't think my future is going to be very good. If I do go, I think my future has a lot of opportunity. I also got encouragement though. I don't think I could have made the decision on my own. I actually had people who were important who came into my life and said, hey, Ben, I really think this would be good for you. I think you should do it. And I wanted to do it anyways. I just kind of given up on that idea because
Yeah.
enough of life had kind of beat me down. And I think that can often happen to people where they've either failed so many times, not kept their promises, or just life happened and they just gave up on their own future. And so I think you often need encouragement to say, look, you can still have a shot at this life. And so I needed some support and help, but ultimately I decided
Yeah.
this is my way of having a good life. So I decided to leave.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about encouragement and influences, in your perspective, how critical is it to have that kind of encouragement in your life, or the right type? A lot of people refer to it, the right type of encouragement or the right type of group of people in your circle of friends, right? Um, how do you define that, and how critical is it to have your average five in your circle of friends?
Yeah. Let's just say every aspect of your life is predicted by the type of people you're around. So like
Mm.
there's a lot of research on that, your social group or your peer group predicts like your ability to perform academically, like whether or not you're going to be an alcoholic, whether you're going to be an entrepreneur, whether you're going to be religious. Like it's, peer group and also just social group is one of the biggest predictors of who you are as a person. I would also
Mm.
say it's just a predictor of personality. And so, yeah, it's huge. You got to be
Yeah.
very wary and careful of who you choose to be around. And I think that's one of the reasons why people don't make moves is because they've developed relationships with people that they feel committed to or they feel the need to be loyal to. And so as a result, they choose to just be the person that they've been rather than be the person that they truly want to be, which would require them to be honest in those relationships, which takes huge courage. But that's kind of the first step is you got to decide who you want to be. And then you have to have the courage to tell the people in your life, this is the person I really want to be, even though this isn't who I've been.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And I believe that too. I believe that there's, in my opinion, there's three kinds of people or three groups of people that you want to be able to have in your circle of friends. One, I feel like you have to have someone that might be playing at a higher level than you are, yet they're willing to help you out. So kind of like a mentor or someone that you can look up to. And then, so that's one group of people. The other group of people, I believe, is people that are playing at the same level as you are, yet they're helping you, they're edifying you, they're pushing you, they're part of that same community. And then the last one I think is critical is to be able to have people that want to be like you and have that drive where you can reach down and bring them up to your level. So you're helping out people, right? And I think once you can create that abundance between those three different groups of people, then things for you work out in a different aspect too, right? So that's kind of how I see it from my perspective.
Yeah, that's interesting. I see it in a similar way, but different. Because like
Okay. Yeah.
there's a lot of people who I help and support with my skill sets that are not necessarily above or below me, but are maybe like somewhere way over here. Like,
Gotcha.
like as far as like a collaboration, like
Yeah.
I'll help people who may not be above or below me, but who want my skill set. And like, so rather than like I'm being mentored or rather than I'm helping, you can create collaborations with people where you share either audiences or skill sets. Kind of like this, like
Hmm.
I wouldn't consider you above or below me, but we're
Right. Yeah.
sharing skill sets as a collaboration to create some unified. So I think that might be a fourth.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And then in terms of personality, how critical is that role that plays in your past, present, and future?
Basically what I talk about in the book is that, and there's a lot of really interesting, cool research on this
Mhm.
subject now. So basically the idea is that your personality isn't who you think, you're not who you think you are.
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of great research so I'll just use you. Let me just use you as an
Hmm.
example. Cesar, do you think you're the same person you were 10 years ago?
No.
You're not the exact same guy?
No. Well,
I
I mean,
agree.
right. I mean, it might be the same name, same last name, but the ideas and things like that have changed drastically, right? Yeah.
Your habits have changed, your priorities have changed, your
Right.
perspectives have changed.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
What you do on a daily basis has changed.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is why your past self is very much not the same person you are today, right? You're
Yeah.
not the same guy you were 10 years ago. And the most important thing for you to understand, and for anyone listening to this, is that in 5 or 10 years, or maybe even in 2 or 3 years, you're not going to be the same person you are today.
Yeah.
Your future self is going to be a different person than you today. And the best thing that you can do today is to decide who your future self is and make decisions not based on what you prefer today, but what your future self prefers. That's actually the best way to make intentional decisions. And that's how you can actually live your life on purpose. If you don't have a clear future self that you view as a different person than you are today, then you're going to think that who you are right now is who you'll always be. And what's kind of interesting is, like, for example, personality tests. When you adopt a label about yourself, you can become very definitive in your identity, and you can think that this is who I really am. And that can stop you from deciding who you want to be. It can stop you from, your personality ultimately becomes a comfort zone where you just stay within what's comfortable to you. It's a lot better to just decide who you want to be, start telling people about that, and start living outside of that comfort zone. Just as you described, you can do anything.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of cool ideas. So I would argue it's really important for you not to hold so tight to your current identity, because your current self is temporary. And the worst thing you could do for your own growth is to say, this is exactly who I am. That's basically what's called a fixed mindset.
Got you. And one thing that I've seen and noticed is that sometimes people tend to really go back to the past and either use that as a validation or use that as a way of making, holding a decision today. I think that we're looking for that validation. We're looking for kind of like that permission. It's like, how did I perform in the past, and to be able to perform now, or whatever I'm going to be doing. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a negative thing or a bad thing. I just feel that many people might go back to the past and use that to create a validation, right? Very similar to where we're seeking other people's opinions to do something or not. So in your opinion, how critical is it for you to go back and do get validation of past actions or whatever you might have done to create something today?
I think looking to the past for inspiration is useful. Like, you can, for example, look back and say, when was a time when I, dealt with a big problem? And then you can kind of realize that you drew on some strengths that maybe you had forgot you had. So I think you can use the past as a source of inspiration and a source of information, but you should never use the past as a form of justification for who you are today. And so, like, a lot of people, if they've had trauma or negative experiences from the past, they will use their past as kind of, honestly, like a weapon, like they weaponize the past, I guess you could say, to kind of claim that they are who they are and that they don't need to change. And it's important to realize that your past is not objective. Like, your past is a story. It's a fiction, and it's a meaning, and you can change the meaning of it. Like, if you had something negative happen to you, that your perspective of the past is just your perspective. It's not actually what really happened. It's the meaning you gave to that event. And so you can change and you should change the meaning you give to various events, especially the ones that you're using to justify current behavior. And instead you should say, this is something I learned from, but it's not something I'm going to continue to repeat. And then you got to focus back on your future self and moving forward.
Yeah. What are some things that people can do to attempt to not continue to live in the past? Because sometimes people are in the present, living in the past based on those past actions. Is there anything that maybe people can do or be able to exercise every day to remove that little by little?
There's nothing they can do. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, there's lots of things you can do.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing for people who are holding on to something from the past is beginning to express it. So, like, basically, there's unresolved emotional issues, and the first part is just opening up and facing them. You could do that in your journal. By honestly giving your thoughts and emotions form, you stop suffering through them. Also, by talking to people about them, telling people about the biggest challenges you've faced or the things that you're holding on to, openly admitting that, like, these are the things that you've been holding on to. I think the biggest key step is just opening up with yourself and with other people, journaling, talking to people. But also, it's really crucial to take the time to think about the person you want to be. There are changes we all want to make. And not only do you want to talk about the past and think about the events that have kind of shaped and influenced your thinking and being open and willing to talk about those, but it's also important to talk about the changes and the goals and the direction you want to go. I think so journaling about the past and the future, and also talking with positive, supportive people about the struggles you've gone through and about how you're ready to get back to moving forward. I think that those are crucial things that anyone could do. Those are kind of the most basic, but honestly, most people are not doing it.
Yeah, right. Definitely. I know. Yeah, definitely. Like one thing is like journaling it sounds, it's very simple, yet you're right. A lot of people don't do it. And before you know, the day is gone and you haven't done not even.
Just write about it. Write about the things that, you believe have negatively impacted you and the stories you've told about yourself in the past, and then think about what's the story you would rather tell. And then maybe, but the key is that it's not just in your head and it's not in your journal. The journal can be an amazing tool for giving yourself the space and like to give your thoughts form. But if you don't make it public and if you don't start sharing it, then your chances of moving it from thought to action are weak. You need to start telling people about it and becoming more vulnerable. And the reason that's so important is because then you can start telling a story that's reflective of your future, so that you can start being more consistent to the person you want to be, rather than just continuing to live consistent with the person you've been. And so by becoming vocal and honest and public about it, you're basically saying, I'm ready to start making these changes. Then you would obviously begin to remove the influences that have kept you the person you are. You'd start to maybe change the inputs. You'd stop taking in the same information, experiences, and people, and you'd start investing in new experiences. You'd start studying and being around people that are the direction you want to go, and getting into better relationships.
Got it. One thing too, and you were talking about, being able to say, who do we want to be, and start acting like the future self that we want to be, right? Or start creating that for ourselves. Sometimes people don't have a clear aspect, or they don't have the clarity, or to even know what is their highest intention, or what they want to be in the near future. And a lot of times I hear people say, well, just find your passion, or understand your why, or do this or do that, right? And a lot of times people are lost. They don't know how to find that. They don't know how to create that. What are some things that we can do to start looking at putting that puzzle together of who we should be, working for in the near future?
You don't find it.
Okay.
You decide. Your future self is not something you discover. It's something you decide. We all have, inside of us, changes we want to make. Like if we're just honest with ourselves, all progress starts by telling the truth. And, they say that the number one deathbed regret is that people didn't have the courage to be who they wanted to be. Instead, they lived up to the expectations of those around them. So I think the first starting point is just saying, and you don't have to go 10 years into the future. You could go like literally like a month into the future. You could go a week into the future. You could go, I like the idea of like a year or two, or even 3 years, but it's like, if you actually had the choice, what would you like to do with your life? What would you like to do with your time? What would you like your future to look like? Who would you like to be? What kind of relationships would you like to be in? How would you like your health to be? I think just taking the time to start to conceptualize and think about the thing that people don't realize is that they actually can design themselves. We can make choices about the type of people we are. Like if you're listening to me right now, this isn't just me. This isn't the person I've always been. I chose to be someone who studied psychology. I chose to be someone who was an author. I chose to be someone who had 5 kids. These were decisions I made in the past about who I wanted to become in the future, which is now my present. So it's literally about developing the ability to make choices about the type of person and circumstances you want to be in. You can get to the point where you're like, I want to start making millions of dollars. And then you become the kind of person who does that. But I think as a starting point, it's like, okay, I want to be someone who's healthy, someone who feels great during my time. I want to start to, be around people that make me feel awesome. I want to have experiences where I'm traveling. Like it's literally just thinking about the type of life you want to have and the type of person you want to be. And the more detailed you get, the more then you can use that as the benchmark for what you do today. The worst thing you would do is use your current preferences or your current emotions to make decisions. Because there's a lot of times, honestly, when you just don't want to make the right decision today, or you don't want to do the right thing. Like, for example, when I go home from work, I'm often exhausted. I wake up early and I work hard. And when I go home, I've got 5 kids. I've got like kids who want to go swimming with me and play with me. And like, if I just made my decisions based on the preferences of the moment, I would say no. You know, I'd say I'm tired. I'm just going to sit and look at Facebook because I'm fried.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, I'm like, how would my future self want to remember this? Like, who's the person I want to be? I'll use that as the benchmark for my decisions today. So if you don't have that, if you haven't taken the time to think about who you want to be, then you can't live positively in the present. Like, you're going to just waste your time, and you're just going to live based on your current emotions, which are going to basically be to seek comfort and apathy.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's very powerful, and I never saw it that way. And I love the fact that you can, you know, you got to start thinking about what do I want to do tomorrow in that person, and start utilizing. I really, really love that. I think it's very powerful. Now, in terms of the, how important is it for you to work on the unconscious mind?
The unconscious is huge. Your unconscious is who you are right now. Your unconscious and your physical body are pretty much the same thing. So like, wherever you are as a person right now, your unconscious is going to try to keep you here. Like, your unconscious is you on autopilot. Like, it's called unconscious because you can do it without thinking about it. It's your habits. It's just you as a person. So as an example, if you're someone like all of us who grabs your phone without thinking and just starts swiping, the reason you do that is because your body has become addicted to the, like, literally the dopamine and chemicals that you get. And so we do things unconsciously without thinking. Actually, they say about 95% of your behavior is unconscious. And so your unconscious and your environment and your current self are going to try to keep you exactly where you're at. Your personality is your comfort zone, and you want to stay in your comfort zone. The only way to upgrade your subconscious is first to have a new perspective of who you want to be, to start talking about it and start making big steps towards that. Every time you do, you start to change your identity. You start to signal back to you a new self. And so essentially, like, if you think about your future self as where you want to be, like, just as one example, 4 or 5 years ago, the person I wanted to be was a professional author, making a great living and providing for my family and being able to basically work whenever I wanted. That was kind of the person I was wanting to be. Once you actually become that new version of your future self, then that becomes your new normal, your new subconscious. That becomes your new life, where it's just like, you're no longer dreaming, you're just doing it. But then you'll still need to recreate a new future self, or else your life will start to lack meaning again. So the only way to break through from your subconscious is to start living consciously. And the only way you can live consciously is if you're living towards a direction. So you have to have a future self that you're working towards daily and even courageously. And every time you take a conscious step forward, you're actually breaking down your current subconscious and rebuilding it into the new one.
Yeah, I love that. And with that, I'm assuming that there's certain programs that we can take on, you know, from media to reading to listening, like all of that is affecting the unconscious mind, right?
Everything that comes in, for sure. You want to obviously surround yourself with good content, with good people, with good experiences, but also you can train your mind to start to realize your future identity as your current self. I mean, just writing about your goals, writing about what you're going to accomplish, and then actually making that step. I think by vocalizing, you know, this is why people say like affirmations, because you're telling yourself, if you're someone who's totally out of shape, I'm going to be fit. I'm going to be fit. Like that's really good, because you're like retraining yourself to see yourself differently. But also then telling people about it, maybe investing in like a personal trainer. Like, all of these decisions are telling your subconscious, look, I'm going in a new direction. I'm not going to stay the person I've been.
Tell me about your book. What your very first book, right? Willpower Doesn't Work. What was the objective that at that time of you writing that book? What were you trying to accomplish with that?
I was kind of writing to key people in my life who I've seen who have all the potential in the world and all the good intentions in the world, but they keep getting stuck. And so this book is about, and I've spent a lot of time studying this obviously, but when my wife and I became foster parents of 3 kids, we took 3 kids from a really limiting environment. We put them into a new situation where they had a lot more options. In their former environment, they didn't have access to good, healthy food. They didn't have parents who would take them to school. They didn't have high quality, like, friends or like, you know, like support. They didn't, you know, and so so basically the book is about how your choices are limited by your options, and your options are limited by your environment. And when you're in a new environment, you not only have new choices, but you also have new requirements. Like when me and my wife went from 0 to 3, we were required to do things we had never done before. And so a lot of people, especially in like the Western world, like America and stuff, we really focus on the individual. We ignore the context that shapes the individual. So this book is about how essentially environment matters a lot more than willpower. And it's about how you have to choose who you want to be, and you have to create that environment, or else you'll never get there. And I've seen that too many times. I've seen people who have genuine interests and they have genuine goals, but they never get there because they maintain the same influences that keep them stuck.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And then your new book that's going to be coming out pretty soon, that's about personality, right? It's in permanent. So you talk a lot about kind of what we're talking about right now, which is, your current personality is not going to be your past or future personality, and you got to be able to distinguish those different aspects. What is the idea there behind that book?
The main idea is obviously that your personality isn't a fixed trait, like a lot of people think. It's not something you discover, it's something you decide, and you get to choose how you view your past. You get to choose the future you create, and ultimately you have to decide who you are in the future and use that as the basis for who you become. A lot of people use the past as the basis for who they are. And so this book really kind of breaks down all the science on how that works. And there's a lot of great new science. I mean, there's a lot of science, for example, on, just personality tests in general. Like most of the personality tests that are popular these days are not good science. And also they create a fixed mindset. So this book just kind of explains how to let go of the past, how to rechange your focus on the past, how to reframe the meaning of the past, how to let go of former memories, how to change traumas, and ultimately how to design the person you want to be, and how to then ultimately courageously and powerfully become that person. Personality changes all the time for people. Their problem is that people hold to such a strong form of identity that they actually stunt their own growth.
Got it. No, that's awesome. And then in terms of, obviously you've studied psychology, you've done a lot of those things. What is one thing that you do, or a few things that you do on a day-to-day basis to keep you on this positive mindset? What are your habits that you do on a day-to-day basis?
I don't think that the habits that I do will necessarily translate to results for your audience, because my habits are based on my goals. I think you got to start with, but I do think that you've got to start with goal. Like you got to start with who's your future self, and then you got to develop the habits that will ultimately lead to your goal. My habits are leading to my goals. But I think that useful things for anyone and everyone to do is obviously to write in your journal every day. I think that's crucial. Write about your future self, write about who you're trying to become, and then ultimately take courageous actions on a daily basis towards those goals. That's how you build confidence as a person. That's how you build flexibility. I mean, if you're becoming increasingly committed to and taking action towards your goals on a daily basis, especially like in the morning before life gets busy, you become a more confident person. And the more confident you are, the bigger the goals you'll set. And the more you'll strive to actually create a life that you enjoy. And so I think that obviously having an evening and a morning routine, for me, simplifying your life, not getting so caught up. I mean, I've got 5 kids. So a lot of my habits are around just working at certain times and then being at home. But I think that things that people need to do daily are give themselves a space to think and be intentional, and then to literally take courageous action daily, like whatever that courageous action is for them. So for me today, that was film 4 ads. Because that's not something I'm very good at. So today, that was my intentional action. That took courage. That was out of my comfort zone. That was out of my typical personality, because former Ben wasn't shooting ads. So I had to do that today because that is relevant to my goal. And the goal always shapes the process. And so you got to be really clear on your goal, or else you'll have no clue how to get there.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I love too is obviously creating I call them action plans or goals, same aspect, right? How do you go about doing that? Do you start with the goal in mind, the end goal in mind first, and then work yourself backwards? What is your strategy in creating goals? Because I know sometimes people that I've talked to, they have no clue on how to set up a goal. They don't know how to put it together or strategize that. And I think that's critical in anything that we do, whether it's personal or professional, right? How do you go about creating your goals for yourself?
Start with your future identity. Who's your future self?
Okay.
Literally, you've got to start there. Who's the person you want to become? What is their situation like? And then once you've kind of detailed out your future circumstances and your future self, the next step is, well, what is an outcome that would allow that to be true? So for example, when I decided I wanted to be a professional writer, I had to be specific about who I wanted to be. I wanted to be making at least 6 figures. I wanted to be a traditionally published author. I wanted to be able to have flexibility in my schedule because I had kids. And so once I had kind of my future self in mind, I then had to set a goal that I could focus on and achieve. And so for me, it was get a 6-figure book deal. Like, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how far away I was. I didn't know if it would take 2 years or 10 years, but it was like, if that's my person I want to become, I need to actually have some outcome or thing like that I can actually pursue so that I can make that real. So I think once you've decided who you want to be, you need to find, I would say, do a lot of education. You got to find out what would be required for you to actually become that person. And then you need to set a big measurable goal. I think the less goals, the better. For me, it was one goal, get a 6-figure book deal. Once I had that goal, then I could reverse engineer how to do it. And then I could ask the right questions. It's like, well, I would ask other agents or authors. It's like, how do you get a 6-figure book deal? Well, you got to get 100,000 email subscribers. Oh, well, how do you do that? Well, you got to get really good at writing blog posts and stuff like that. So your process gets clarified once you've decided a goal, but that goal needs to clearly lead you to the person you want to be. So you need to start with your future self and then set a goal that you say, if this were true, then I would be able to be the person I want to be.
Right. And what are the actions that are going to help you with that? Okay, cool. I love that. I have a couple of more questions for you before I let you go. If people wanted to find more about you, like you say you do speaking, how can people connect with you at a different level, or where can they find you?
Yeah, just benjaminhardy.com is where you can find me. All my blog posts are there. You can find free resources. If you pre-order the book, you can get several free online courses.
Nice.
I have a course that literally takes you through all of the exercises in this book. I have a journaling course that over 10,000 people have purchased that kind of takes you through strategies for reframing your past, upgrading your subconscious. There's even a blogging course that people paid $3,000 to attend a live event that I did. And I break down all my blogging strategies and things like that. There's a lot of free things I give away on my website, nice. Especially for people who pre-order the book. Like, you get pretty much everything I've ever put out.
Yeah, so definitely need to go out and check that out. And then in terms of what is one thing that you can tell our audience in terms of what they can do to start overcoming any obstacles in their life?
There's a really good quote that question reminds me of. The quote is, "We are kept from our goal, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal." So like, a lot of times people won't go through the obstacles. Instead, they'll take a clear path to a lesser goal. So I think, how do you get through the obstacles? You get help. First off, you tell people about your goals. Second off, you get help through those goals, because the more you try to do it by yourself, the more you're going to procrastinate and get stuck. You need help. You need encouragement. You need support. You need mentorship. Some of the things you've already said. The more help you can get, the easier your obstacles become. And the longer you wait to get help, the longer a single obstacle will keep you stuck, because there's 1,000 obstacles between you and your future self. And why would you get stuck on one of them for like a week, a month, or a year? Rather, you need to just get the help you need so that you can get through obstacles faster. And, every obstacle you get through, you build confidence. And so I think that just, you need help to get through those obstacles. And the sooner you can get the right help, the faster you'll get through them. So I would say, if you're committed to the goal, you'll get help. If you're committed to your ego, you'll just wait. You'll just let it. You'll just sit. And so the faster you just say, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help, the sooner you'll get through those obstacles.
Yeah. One thing that I've heard too is that sometimes people feel like there's not enough resources, or I don't have the means to be able to go out and get that resource. So what would you say to something like that?
I don't think you necessarily need money always. There's a lot of free education online. There's a lot of people, like you said, who are maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, who you can help them achieve their goals, and in due process, they can teach you how to take the next step. It's not like you need to go straight to the people at the top. Right. Sometimes I, as an example, really wanted to learn from a guy named Dan Sullivan. I don't know if you've heard of Dan.
I have, yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to learn from him. We've actually now written a book together that comes out this October. It's
nice.
with Hay House. It's called Who Not How, and that book's going to get published with a big publisher. But I just reached out to him and I just said, I want to learn from you, and I would also love to help you. I'm a writer, and I'd be happy to write about you. And he was like, of course. And so I was able to get that for free. In fact, he even paid me. And so I think it's about being thoughtful about also what you can give. It's not all about what's in it for you. It's about what's in it for them. I think that's a good question to ask, rather than how can I get what I want? It's, well, why would they, you can't just be in a relationship in a one-sided relationship. No relationship is useful that way. If you're in a marriage and you're only asking what's in it for me, that marriage is going to suck. If you're trying to get help from someone and all you're asking is what's in it for me, that situation is not going to work. And like the higher up you get in like the success totem pole, the more and more you have to be asking what's in it for them. How can I help you? How can I be supportive? And so rather than, I think the right question is, who are the right people for you to just go out and freely help so that you can learn from them? I think Robert Kiyosaki said, if you work to learn, then you'll ultimately be able to earn. So I think the goal is you work and help people so that you can learn, and that will teach you, not only give you the connections and resources, but it'll teach you how to think differently so that you can earn at the level you want to, rather than kind of staying at this lower level thinking.
Yeah, definitely. It's very similar to, I think, Zig Ziglar said, if you give enough people what they want, you'll definitely get what you want, right?
It's a great quote. It's a very important, the Ziglar quote's huge, man. It's such an important one.
Right, definitely. So awesome. And definitely, they need to check out your book and look at those resources, because we're talking about how can I get access, or how can I get ideas, or how can I get something that can help me move forward to my future self. And obviously they have that, even with just looking at your website and going and getting your pre-ordering your book, there's going to be tons of resources that you're offering. So there's definitely a way to do that. Definitely, Benjamin, I had a really good time. Is there anything else you want to say to our audience before I let you go?
Nope. Just grateful to be with you, man. It was a pleasure. Just go to benjaminhardy.com to learn more, and thank you for letting me be with you.
Yeah, definitely. And as Benjamin said, personality isn't permanent. So make sure you keep that in mind and go check out his book. So for the rest of you guys, please make sure that you like, subscribe, go check out his website, get his book, and please make sure that you stay tuned for the next episodes coming up. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you tuned in to this podcast. You can find me at Spreaker.com, where you can like and subscribe. And to learn more about myself and my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at Facebook under Cesar R. Espino. Once again, thanks for joining me. I am looking forward to having you at the next episode, and know that you truly can overcome anything.